The emergency room doctor tied off his nerve as he's suturing this laceration, which killed off the nerve, but he failed to recognize what he'd done. And by the time they finally realized it, it was already too late. You want to know what this is about? Come join me for a moment as I share with you this remarkable story. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury trial lawyer practicing law in the state of New York. So now this gentleman had gotten angry. He had heard a terrible story, and what did he do? He took out his anger on a window. He punched the glass. Well, that was mistake number one. And as a result of him punching the glass lacerated his arm. And all of a sudden, what do you think happened? It hit an artery, and now he's got blood shooting out, hitting the walls. His friend sees this, puts pressure on him, gets him in a car, and races him over to the hospital, which is only a 4-minute drive away. He arrives in the emergency room, bleeding out of his arm. And they realize that if they don't address this immediately, this guy is going to bleed to death. He hit a pumper. This is a massive arterial bleed. The doctor looks at it. He's got to close off this bleeder. If he doesn't get it closed, now what's going to happen? The patient's going to bleed to death. So now the ER doctor is in there. He's throwing sutures. He's throwing stitches. Finally, he gets the bleeding to stop. And over the next couple of weeks, he does follow up. And during the course of those weeks, he's beginning to notice that he's got tingling and numbness in his fingers. And now when he returns back to the hospital clinic, he tells the doctors there, who by the way are residents, doctors in training, that he's got this numbness and tingling in his fingers. And you know what they say? Don't worry about it. It's just from the trauma of putting your hand through the glass and causing this significant laceration. Don't worry about it. Well, he goes back 2 weeks later, again with significant complaints now of worsening pain, tingling, and numbness in his fingers and parts of his hand. This is known as a dermatome pattern. Now, what is that? Every nerve in our body innervates and controls a particular part of our body. And there are specific documented anatomical patterns of which nerves control which areas of our body. Had the doctors in training recognized that his problems fell into a specific dermatomal pattern, they would have recognized that he had an ongoing nerve injury and immediately sent him off to evaluate by a hand surgeon or to a neurologist. Instead, what did they do? They said, don't worry about it, you'll be fine, it'll get better. Come back in another few weeks. Well, that's exactly what he did. When he came back again, he had the same exact problems, except this time worse. At this point, they finally said, you know what? It's about a month and a half out past your injury. Let's get you seen by a hand surgeon. He goes to a hand surgeon. He says, hey, buddy, you've got problems. He's like, looks like you've got a permanent nerve injury. And he didn't like what he heard. So he ultimately went to another hand surgeon outside of the hospital who looks at him and says, you need surgery. We need to go in and explore what went on. We need to explore where the nerve is. What's the problem? And this hand surgeon did exactly that. And what she found was remarkable. And I asked her about it later on. I said, tell me about what you found. And you know what she said? She said, I found that one of the stitches tied off the nerve that controlled and innervated parts of the hand. And as a result of them tying it off, that nerve died, especially since it had not been recognized and had not been treated early on. If this had been recognized within a week, 2 weeks, maybe even a little bit longer, he wouldn't have had a permanent nerve injury. But as a result of nobody paying attention to this and just brushing it off, that nerve died off, which meant he lost partial use of his arm. He lost the innervation. He lost the sensation in parts of his hand and his arm. So why do I share this remarkable story with you? I share it with you just to give you one sense of what occurred when I had the opportunity to represent this gentleman. And an emergency room doctor turned around and said, listen, I had no choice but to suture this thing up quickly. Yeah, that's true. But you also had an obligation to see if you damaged any of the structures nearby at the same time. You know, I realize you've got questions or concerns about your own particular matter. Well, if your matter did happen here in New York and you've got legal questions, what I encourage you to do is pick up the phone and call me. I can answer your legal questions. You know, this is something I do every single day, and I'd love to chat with you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, G-E-R-R-Y, at oginski-law.com. That's it for today's quick video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a wonderful day.